We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
This crusade, this war on terrorism, is going to take a while.
We came, we saw, we died.
We tortured some folks.
You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 11 of Dave versus Goliath. Oh boy, I know I've said it before, but it is a special one today. We have, I would say, a hero of mine in the liberty movement. Somebody who I would say the Libertarian Party is extremely lucky to have. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Caryn Ann Harlos. Caryn Ann, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing good. It's early though here for me in Colorado. You're on East Coast time. This is mountain. So doing okay. Got a little bit of a cold, as I told you, so there might be some coughing or my voice sounds a little weird. Just had a COVID test though, so it's definitely not Corona. Yeah, but apparently at Pork Fest there was somebody who was positive that did infect quite a few people. So we all went and got tested. I didn't get tested just because I had a cold, but it was like, okay, just was exposed and then I got sick. So in the abundance of caution, went and got tested.
That's a good idea. And why would Nick Sarwark weaponize himself with COVID to come in and deliver that chemical weapon?
Him.
It wasn't him.
Just so we know.
Noted.
It wasn't him.
He was just there as an observer.
That would have been actually kind of funny. Yeah, that would have been kind of funny though. It'd been like the CIA operative coming in.
Right? What a perfect
weapon.
opportunity. Yeah, exactly. Look at the super spreader event over here, everybody.
Yeah, that would have been funny as hell.
I'll tell you what, Porkfest, I've watched a lot of content. My good buddy Dan Smots was there recording. I saw his interview with you. Mm-hmm. I watched your whole speech, which was great and fiery and exactly what we need. And real, too. We need real people who are ready to, like you said, wear your heart on your sleeve. And I loved it. It was just I can't think of anything that I disagreed with as far, messaging, rooting out corruption, standing up for what you believe in, getting active. It was just all the right stuff. So yeah, it looked like you had a great time there. Got some good energy back after the week that you had.
Oh yeah, that was it was a lifesaver in a way because it was a rough few weeks leading up to that. So as I said in that one little impromptu street interview, it was like from the firing pan into water, Yeah. That's just much better than into fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm involved, I have been since day one with the Mises Caucus. You're not a member, which is appropriate, I think, how you said, members of the LNC shouldn't take sides with caucuses and things. But you've also said that you like to be where the energy is at. And it's pretty apparent that that's where the energy is at right now, right?
Yes. I'm sorry. They certainly brought in a lot of enthusiastic people. And it's one of the first caucuses I've seen on a large scale to actually do what caucuses are supposed to do. They have their particular agenda. People can like it or not, but a whole purpose of a caucus is a group with common goals that then work together as a team to try to achieve those goals. And a lot of caucuses have that on paper, but very few have that in actuality. And I think it's a sign that the LP is coming into its own when it has actual caucuses doing things. And there were spurts of it throughout history, even if I don't like what they accomplished, like the Reform Caucus in 2006 got a lot done, but they had one very specific goal. They accomplished it, then they disbanded. But there hasn't been any recent long-term caucuses to me that have been doing actual caucus work. The last ones I can think of were like the 70s and 80s Radical Caucus. And then the Radical Caucus right around 2016 had a good burst for that 1 year and then fizzled out. And a lot of them are really mad at me for pointing that out. But it's like, it's not an insult, people. It's just saying what reality is. It's not saying tomorrow you can't all of a suddenly get a burst. But the fact is, right now, the Radical Caucus is a social club. And that pains me to say, because that's where I started from, but listen, you can't improve unless you deal with reality. Absolutely. So no, the Mises Caucus is actually doing what caucuses and other real political parties do.
Right, exactly. So the criticisms that like, oh, it's not a caucus, it's a super PAC, is ridiculous, because that's what everyone should be doing, is raising money constantly, raising awareness constantly.
That's what a caucus is supposed to be.
They have money. It's not what you're supposed to do. Yeah, that's
that is like that. Caucuses that are not organized as a PAC, they're not real caucuses as far as I'm concerned. Right. And I know there's joke ones that aren't intending to be real ones, but there are ones intending to be real ones. They don't have bylaws, and they're not organized as a PAC. Sorry, you're not politically serious if you're not organized as a PAC. And the Radical Caucus at least is organized as a PAC. Yeah. They might not be getting a lot done right now, but they are they're organized as a serious caucus.
Yep. Yeah, they were at our convention, had their button table out, giving away. Mm-hmm. And I looked at every button. There was probably 100 variety. Didn't disagree with any one of the buttons. So yeah, I feel like.
Well, let me say right now they are a great button producing organization. Nobody beats their button game. I mean, and listen, there's nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that, because we need that kind of material. And James Golston is the beast behind the buttons at the Radical Caucus, and he's always been that way. He's fantastic. And no one's ever going to touch the Radical Caucus's button game. Yeah. No one.
It's on point. That's for sure. And I think there's a lot of overlap there, obviously. And I've only been in here for a couple years, but I remember the Audacious Caucus, which I feel like hasn't really spoken up. I don't know if that's legit or not. The Socialist Caucus, I give no credence to.
They get active around conventions.
Right, yeah. right.
They'll get active around the convention basically to just cause trouble at the convention. And I'm not saying that in a disparaging way. I think sometimes we need a little trouble at conventions. They certainly make it entertaining. So they're there to raise a ruckus and make people uncomfortable at convention. And again, I think there's a need for that. So it's not said disparagingly at all, but that's when they get active.
I love that. And I think I'm going to just interject something really quickly while I have you. What is the libertarian position on James Weeks coming in and attempting to strip again at a convention? What do we do? What do you do? Do you deal with that? Do you deal with that stigma for 4 more years? Because I feel like it's been damaging to everybody.
Well, Colorado, we kind of got proactive, even though we didn't have a James Weeks. But I said immediately after 2016, and by the way, a lot of people don't know this, he was expelled from the Radical Caucus for that behavior. Oh, okay. Because a lot of people blamed us, and because he was a member at the time, and he was then expelled. That makes me feel better. We need a gong and a hook. That's all we need. If anybody remembers the old Gong Show, that's just what we need. And funny, for several years afterwards at Colorado, we did rent a gong in honor of James Weeks. Good. So I think that's what we need, and that solves it. People disagree, but I do think what he did was a violation of the NAP because it was fraudulent. He really was not seriously running for chair. I don't care what he says. He planned all that to get up there and shock people. And it was on false pretenses because we were all consensually there to hear chair speeches. If I had known it was going to be a strip show, I would have went someplace else, and those who wanted to watch that could have stayed. The funny thing is, he was at the Arizona convention the following year and performing, but it was scheduled to be the James Weeks strip show, and I attended it. But I knew exactly what I was getting into. And here's something funny. He was quite a talented stripper dancer. He really was. At Arizona, where it was planned and there was music and there was hype, he did a great job. Yeah. And I voluntarily went to see that. That's the difference.
That's pretty much about the best answer I could possibly hope for. And yeah, I think I would have done the same thing, man. Go ahead. Go up there, show everybody what you got at the proper time.
Right. And I'm telling you, in Arizona, he did a good job.
All right. That's perfect. So I appreciate that explanation. That makes me feel better. Let's go back just a couple weeks, and I know this is inside baseball, and for my viewers who aren't too deep into the Libertarian Party, I apologize. But this has been, I think even if you're not in the party, this has been a really crazy couple weeks, and it's a story worth telling, and you kind of were at the center of it, because as much as I love my Meekhawks, we're not really in a position of authority in this party yet, and you are. So I think without you there, and again, not to just, this is not hero worship, but without you being in that position, man, I hate to think about how this would have turned out. And I'm
pretty sure I know how it would turn out. And it does make me uncomfortable in a way, because again, I'm not trying to make myself out to be more than I am, because anyone could have done it. It's just that not everyone did. And it's not because they wouldn't have. We are all in different life situations. And I happened to be at a point in time where I had just quit my job and had a lot of free time. If I had still been working, I wouldn't have had time to do what I did. So there was nothing particularly special, about me. The stars lined up in the right way. But I am convinced that if I didn't do what I had done when I had done it, that the Gilletta Jarvis group would be the LP of New Hampshire right now. That was the plan. I don't think a lot of people understand the way the LNC functions and the way institutional inertia functions in the LP, because I even see former chairs. I love Steve Dosbach, and I'm actually going to be talking to him about this because he is a chair candidate right now. And I really want to see how he answers what I'm going to say next, because without understanding this, there's a problem. He's like, well, yeah, but the LNC never would have disaffiliated New Hampshire. We wouldn't have had to. That was never the plan. The plan was to have one get substituted for the other, stonewall for 2 weeks. By the time 2 weeks went by, everyone would have been tired of it and just thrown up their hands and said, let New Hampshire handle it. And possession is 9/10 of the law. They were in possession of everything. And it would have just continued that way. And everyone would have said, yeah, that's too bad, but that's New Hampshire's problem. No, it wasn't. It was a problem of the LNC's making. Right. Well, and particularly I get LNC members who get mad at me because I say the LNC is a collective. When any one of us does it, until the entire LNC officially repudiates that action, we're all collectively responsible. That's how agency works. And as far as I'm concerned, the LNC still hasn't officially repudiated the actions of our chair. Yeah. They've preferred to sweep it under the rug. So as far as I'm concerned, the LNC still tried a behind-the-scenes subversive takeover of the New Hampshire Party. It was the chair specifically that did it. But the rest of the LNC is still content to go, well, there's no real proof of corruption. Are you smoking fucking crack? What do you need? A meteor to come on your head? I have no respect for anyone who says that there's no evidence of corruption. That is beyond naive. Obviously, there is. Yeah. And the chair's reaction or resignation and what he said afterwards shows that there was. He was so disingenuous, and the whole thing is just ridiculous. And I don't know why my fellow LNC members, with the exception of Joshua Smith, are reluctant to admit this. And they should have immediately repudiated that action.
Yeah, quite a few. You were kind of just, as Josh said, I think, in a den of vipers there. Kind of the lone voice, maybe.
I still are. You should see what happens whenever I bring up the word corruption. I'll get, because a lot of it happens in the internal list, which is being abused to all hell. A lot of it will come up that there's no evidence. And then I had another LNC member threaten me with the whole decorum thing again, saying it was indecorous of me to say there was corruption, even if I do it on my own private time, such as here. Even if I stop saying it on the LNC list, which I'm fine with doing because I've said it enough, but I've been threatened that if I continue to say that in my private life, that, yeah, I might be the subject of a political assassination attempt again. And none of them will admit, they won't even admit that it appears that I was targeted for what I was saying. Listen, you don't have to admit that's what you did, but come on. you're a dumbass if you don't at least concede. Yeah, I can see how that kind of looked bad.
Right. Well, that's how, I don't know, I'm not speaking for everybody there, but at least the chair. I mean, this is how lawyers operate, right? Just don't concede anything. Just go with your narrative. And man, if you didn't have the position that you had and be in New Hampshire when it happened and interview Miss Jarvis immediately after this happened to kind of get it on the record.
I was actually in Florida. I wasn't in New Hampshire. I was in Florida.
So how did you get the interview with her?
Florida convention. I just called her up. I mean, dialed her up on a DM and asked her.
That's amazing.
Anyone could have done that. Like, I was just like, okay, I heard what happened. I didn't know who was telling the truth. I had no opinion at the time because I didn't know what happened. Because a lot of people thought I was friends with the Mises Caucus guys in New Hampshire. When I went into those interviews, I didn't even know their names. I did not know them at all. Who I was friends with and actually predisposed to believe was Gilletta Jarvis.
Right.
So all of my prejudices were on the side of Gilletta Jarvis. She's been a longtime friend of mine. I didn't know the New Hampshire people from anything. And I'm not naive to think that everybody in the Mises Caucus are a bunch of good actors. I'm sure there are bad actors. There are bad actors in the Radical Caucus. So I don't have any illusion that any group that I like is full of saints. So I didn't come in there automatically thinking, oh, something fucked up. Right. I didn't know at all what happened. So, I just wanted to know before, because everyone was asking me, what do I think? Well, I don't say things before I have the facts. So immediately when I was relieved of my parliamentarian duties that evening in Florida, I got on and just started talking to people to figure out what happened.
That's awesome. This is another really cool function that I've seen in leaders in this party and the movement. I've seen you do it, and Angela McArdle, when she came to our convention, and she was here for 2 days with us, she didn't like come and give a speech and just like observe. She was working the whole time. Like really, when we were at convention and people were trying to pull some, awful shit. No, she had Robert's Rules out. And she was because if you can say a lot of great things about the Mises Caucus, but we are not professional politicians, right? You know that. So
you need some work on Roberts very badly.
So you are not exactly. I detest it, but I have my handy training guide. I'm taking notes. I'm reading through this, and I'm showing up in my meetings. So we're doing the work. But yeah, we were very lucky to have her there. I'm sure Florida was very lucky to have you there to lend guidance and teach us in real time as these things are unfolding. So yeah, again, thank you for that. Thank you, Angela. Appreciate you very much.
Yeah, I was the convention parliamentarian for Florida, just like I was for Pennsylvania. And as most people, I don't think anyone denies in Pennsylvania. You got to be a real, just outright hater to deny in Pennsylvania that I was extremely unbiased. And in fact, I pretty much told the Mises Caucus people, what you're getting upset about, I'm sorry, you're wrong. They followed the rules. You might not like their rules, then work to change them. But they didn't do anything illegal in Pennsylvania. And I do not believe Steve Sheets acted in bad faith whatsoever.
I think that a lot of these people, and we can put him in there, we can put a couple other lawyerly folks in there. What they do, where they operate is the scummy but legal realm. Like
I don't even think Steve Sheets behaved scummy. And that's just my opinion. I was up there in real time observing, and Steve Sheets, I think, was a bit over his head parliamentary wise and was very confused. Like things were going just a bit too fast. And I don't mean that to even denigrate his abilities as chair. That's a hard job, and it's very easy to get befuddled. So I really don't think there was anything nefarious going on in Pennsylvania. I really don't. Now, maybe people on the floor and the way they were voting, I have no opinion on that.
Right.
But what I did work with and observe was the chair. And I think he did the best job he could. And I don't think he was acting in bad faith.
That's one of the other things that I do like about you is you really give people the benefit of the doubt. Where if I see one thing, I give them that eye. I don't know about you, but I do. I want to take more of that on. I do. Steve Sheets was at our event, Liberty Speaks, and he spoke as well. Seems more of like the administrative, kind of political mind rather than the activist type or whatever. And that's okay, because there's different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
I'm with that. But you gave...
And a lot of people think, like Steve Sheets and I used to be close in the past. We haven't been recently. He endorsed my competitor in the last race, so I have
that's totally fucked up, Steve.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was... Listen, I'll tell Steve, I thought it was fucked up, particularly because we were friends at the time and he didn't even bother to tell me he was going to do that. To me, you give a friend a heads up. So I had every reason to have a grudge against Steve and be real butthurt and to say he was in bad faith, but he wasn't.
Right. I've heard you've given Joe Bishop Henchman a lot of, hey, give this guy a chance. I'll be honest with you. I've only been on Twitter since the beginning of this year, but I just went down his little follow list and I was like, oh, this guy's nobody's friend. He doesn't want to be friends with anybody. He'll like every caucus except the Mises Caucus. So if you're in charge of the party, which is in charge of bringing in new energy, and you won't pay attention or acknowledge the main driver of that energy, then I got a big problem, man. Again, that's why I'm here, because the Libertarian Party has to be libertarian, unlike the Patriot Act, which is not patriotic, or Citizens United, which is not about people being together. You have to be that thing. That's why I'm here. I have a feeling that's why you're here too.
See, my view of JBH and why I said that, I wasn't being naive. Well, maybe in one sense I was. I think he shocked everybody with his capability for deviousness. I thought, and people laugh, but I thought JBH was as boring as Canada. I didn't think he had it in him to be treacherous. I just thought he was the managerial class and that he would be a very good manager. Did I think the chair should be more than a manager? Yes. But I thought for what he was, he would excel at that. I did not ever anticipate treachery in him, ever, in a million years. That blindsided. I think it blindsided the entire LNC.
I heard his origin story, which I thought was totally weak. I knew he was from D.C., and they ran no libertarian candidates, and he's a tax guy. I was like, again, I'm prejudging here, but I was like, this is not the guy to lead the revolution. I'm sorry, but we can play these games all day, and he might be nice. He might be quieter than Nick, but he's...
Well, that's what... It wasn't anything but Nick, and he promised not to... He promised to be boring, basically.
Right, it's an upgrade.
We elected him to be boring.
Right, we got it.
And he turned out to be very treacherous. So that's why I was always, he's fine, give him a chance. Because there's a lot of managerial things he did that were very good. And those systems he put in place remain in place and will serve the party. It's so easy when somebody does something wrong to write off everything they ever did. But like I like to say, there are no angels and demons. Everybody's a little bit of a mix of both. And not everything he did was bad. His legacy is going to be shit because of the treachery.
Oh, yeah.
But there were some real good managerial processes he put into place.
Yeah. I think I've heard you talk about this. Other people have too. There are nobody wants to purge anybody from the party. Well, I mean, he should probably leave. But that's great that there are people that can really handle the paperwork and the pencil pushing.
Right,
and
the boring.
That's essential because a lot of this work is pretty boring, right? I'm on more Zoom calls than I've ever been in my entire life talking about stuff.
Most LNC work is boring.
Yeah.
We are supposed to just be managers, and a lot of the bullshit the LNC gets involved in should never be involved in. Of course, there is a messaging wing as well, but 90% of what we do is just administrative.
Right.
And the fact that everyone knows who's on the LNC, to me, is a sign of the problem of us doing too much, because we shouldn't be that important. Your state officers should be way more important to you than anyone who's on the LNC.
Right. Bottom up. Good call. You've been the voice for that. So we're not out of the woods yet. I'm sure, as you said, they haven't even apologized for some of these things that they really should atone for.
They won't.
They won't. Well, then hopefully when Angela McArdle wins the chair, she will atone. I know collectively isn't the word we like to use, but hopefully she can maybe deliver a message that's, that change has come. Do you see her what do you see happening up until then? So we have an interim chair, right, who doesn't really want that job. Is that where we're at right now?
No, we don't. We're electing a new chair on Sunday.
Okay, and that's just the. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
A midterm chair. I think our election. Okay, now the whole LNC is going to get all pissed off at me again, but that's okay because I'm going to end up doing a show on this. The LNC, I believe, unethically overruled the ruling of Ken that our bylaws combined with Robert's meant that he automatically ascended the chair. I think that is without question a correct ruling, but Ken didn't want to be chair. So I do have to put some blame on Ken for this. He asked the LNC to overrule his correct ruling. That's wrong. I refused to do it. Out of respect for Ken, I abstained on that vote. I now wish I had upheld his ruling, but when a friend asks you, so I don't know, I'm a big softie. Joshua and I were the only ones who didn't vote to overturn the ruling, and everyone else did. Some of them legitimately felt it was a wrong ruling, but the majority of them knew it was absolutely correct, but they just followed along. I'm sorry, you don't do that. That's a terrible, terrible precedent. Yeah. So in my view, we're having a completely illegitimate election on Sunday, and any delegates, and I almost would encourage it for the principle of the thing, because I am a hard deontologist, and to me, principle is everything, not convenience. 10% of the delegates at the last convention can appeal this election to the Judicial Committee. And it has nothing to do with even who gets elected. To me, it's not about that. It's the election itself is illegitimate. I almost wish they would. I would sign on to such an appeal because the precedent is horrible. Our bylaws with Roberts are clear, and Ken ascends to the chairmanship. And if you don't want it, he should resign and then ask to be reappointed as vice chair. And then we could legitimately elect someone new. Now, someone might go, the result is the same. Why do you want to go through all these hoops? Because that's our rules. The rules are the contract between the party and the members. You don't get to, for convenience or shortcuts, subvert them.
Yeah.
And the LNC did another wink, wink, nudge, nudge, fingers, crossed behind their back, like the way they fucked up our bylaws for the 2020 convention. And it's not the right thing to do. It probably wouldn't be good for, say, the Mises Caucus appearance with the rest of the party to challenge it, because most people don't operate on pure principle, and it probably would make a lot of enemies. But the Mises Caucus certainly has the power to overturn that election on principle if they wanted to, but it's probably not a wise political decision.
Right. Finding more and more of those. I hate that.
Yes.
Having to weigh that out, but it is a reality of this.
But a caucus does, an individual can decide they're going to make a stand on principle because they're really only affecting themselves. But a caucus has to behave a little bit differently. But again, if they decided to do it, I'd sign on to it because we're violating our bylaws.
Right. I'm with you on that one. Again, yeah, you have to follow the rules. If we're going to do this, we have to follow the rules.
Yeah, and I'm sure the bylaws will be amended next convention, and that's fine. But they're not yet, so we need to follow them. And yeah, I'm half tempted to refuse to vote in the election because of that. But I think the fact is it's not going to be overturned, and I have a larger obligation to make sure we don't get somebody terrible.
Yeah.
Not that I think any of the candidates are terrible, but I haven't interviewed them yet. I'm going to be doing that over the next few days.
Can you go down that list of candidates for this?
Oh my God, my memory sucks.
It's okay if you can't.
I know Steve Dosbach, Christopher Thrasher, Whitney Billieu, Tony D'Orazio, and Chuck Moulton. I think that's all of them. Wow. 5. I think there's 5 candidates.
You got a great
and they're all good candidates. Like there's nobody on that list that I would. Oh, Joshua Smith. Oh my God, I'm such a fucking idiot. 6.
Oh. That's my guy. Done. Josh, you got it, bro.
And oh my God, he was probably sitting at home going. Okay, so yeah, there's nobody on that list that I would go. Yeah, nope. So it's ranked choice voting. So I've got to decide the ranks in my head. And I've been pretty open about saying, since I think I don't like the idea of the LNC choosing a chair to begin with, right. Even if our bylaws were changed, though I would accept it a lot better, because to me, that should be the delegate's choice. And I'm not saying that this is how I'm going to vote because I haven't decided. But the fact is, Joshua was the second. Joshua is the only one that's got any kind of imprimatur of approval from the delegates.
Right.
I like Tony, but he also ran and he came in third. So if I'm going to choose between those two, I have to come up with and I'm not saying anything yet, but let's just say it was between Joshua and Tony. Tony's got to give me a compelling reason why now he would be a better choice when the delegates put him third and put Joshua over. And the other candidates never even ran. So I don't know, but they have been, some of them have been former chairs, like Steve Dasbach. So I know the delegates in the past have liked him. And in fact, my own personal opinion of Steve Dasbach is he's the second best chair we've ever had. A lot of people will disagree with me, but I think Nick first term was the best chair the party ever had.
Holy shit.
And Steve Dasbach, his first term was great.
I've heard that. Early Nick was fire. I've heard.
Yeah. And Steve Dasbach is the second best. If I were to take all of Nick, I probably would put Steve as number one. But I'm going by individual terms. So that's high praise for Steve Dasbach. Chuck Moulton used to be vice chair. I know Chuck is not going to get into the personality things. And he's very, very good at Robert's and rules, which is very important to me. And Chuck had one stumble, in my opinion. For all the years I've known Chuck, he has always taken the side of the bylaws, even when it was against his personal self-interest. That's why I nominated him for Judicial Committee in 2016. His stumble was COVID. When COVID came along, and all of a sudden he threw the bylaws out the fucking window.
Emergency.
And I know he's got, yeah, he probably doesn't think he did. I think he's justified it in his own head, but sorry, he did. And that's the black mark in my view.
Yep.
But I adore Chuck. Chris Thrasher's never been chair, but he's been very, very involved in everything having to do with the LNC. He comes to every meeting. He's been on every committee, and everyone loves Chris Thrasher. He'd be very fair. Whitney Bilyeu's been state chair of Texas, which is almost as close to being a national chair as you can be without being one. So like they all have pluses.
Yeah.
You know, in my book. So it's going to be a tough decision. I'm going to have to decide my rankings. And I have to tell you, my decisions are going to weigh very heavily too. And I've asked some of these questions, but I need to do some follow-ups. A, do they believe there was corruption of the chair before in the New Hampshire situation? If they will not admit that, that's fatal in my view.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it means they'll rank lower. Nobody will get my number one choice who will not say that. Yeah. Nobody. 2, do they think I was retaliated against as a whistleblower? That will not be fatal, but to me, that's a lack of judgment if you don't see this. And the rest will have to do with, are you going to be a Nazi hunter? You know, that sort of thing. So nearly all of because I know all of them are capable of the minimum job requirements. That should be a given anyway.
Right.
So I already know that. I want to know the extra. I want to know the potential for treachery.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone else is focusing on. What are you going to do with staff and how are you going to do fundraising? I know all these men well enough to know they'll do fine.
Yeah.
I want to know how they're going to do on the bullshit that has torn apart this party.
Well, the only one I know and the only one I trust and the only one, as you said, that got any votes, in fact, probably, if you want to put the tinfoil hat on, he got the votes maybe in 2020. Josh is the guy. I don't get to say shit, but he's got my endorsement, and I would just love... That's so much sweet justice in that. Both on a positive, truthful, good tip, and also that Loki spirit in me that just wants to see these people just cry about that. That would be so great. So around,
that weighs very heavily on me that he was the second choice of the delegates. So, but I really, honestly, have not made up my mind on my rankings yet. I'm very pleased it's ranked choice, because to just pick one, I think. I love ranked choice, I think would give us the worst of all possible worlds, because everyone would turn very, very factional.
Yeah.
Right now, everyone has to turn very strategic, because even though their first choice might be a factional choice, they need to plan for the possibility they might not get it.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested. Now, I'm very disappointed that the LNC, and I couldn't even get one co-sponsor to send out to the past delegates a ballot to see if they had to do it right now, who they would pick out of those 5. When you don't want to hear from the delegates, I'm very suspicious.
Yup. I'm with you on that again. Because those are your constituents, right? Those are the people that you have to answer to, not the LNC.
And people go, yeah, but they were the past delegates. What do they matter? And I'm not saying they're saying that flippantly, but the people who say that do not understand our bylaws. They do not understand that the bylaws for the 2 years following a convention vest a certain authority remains in the immediately past delegates, because who gets to appeal decisions? The immediate past delegates are the only people who have appellate rights in this party. So those are the group of people who could, 10% of them, appeal this decision. You'd think you'd want to know their opinion to avoid an appeal.
No, they're not going to want to go that way. Only you want to go that way.
It would not be difficult. Yeah. It would not be difficult at all to send out an OPA vote ballot. It would cost less than, I think it was $250 in the service to have them rank their choices. Easy. It would take me an hour to do it as secretary, but they didn't want to.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that. You know, the only person who this doesn't seem like it's working out great for is Angela McArdle. Because I would have assumed that it would have been a set-up knockdown for her to go against Joe Bishop Henchman. But now she's got a bunch of people that are pretty good people that, you know, might want that position too.
Well, I think everyone on the LNC has made up their mind, and I have as well, that they will not vote for anyone to be midterm chair who is going to run in 2022. That's disqualifying, I think, to everyone on the LNC. And I think everyone has promised that none of them are running for chair.
Oh, wow. Okay, man. So you guys do kind of have your ducks in a row there thinking about that stuff. That's
because it's kind of like the LNC enthroning somebody and giving them an advantage that's unfair.
Yes.
I think everyone feels that way.
Okay.
So that's not a concern.
That's cool.
So
I feel better about that.
And that is an absolute disqualifier. I won't even rank a person on my ranked choice ballot if they won't promise that they're not going to run.
Okay, nice. All right.
I don't care if they want to run for something else, just not for chair.
Yeah, you can't leave that up to just whatever, just a few people.
Yeah.
Good call. I want to talk about messaging a little bit, because I know that you've been pretty passionate about that. This has been one of the Mises Caucus biggest grievances locally here in Delaware. That was our grievance with our local party. Hey, why don't you guys post on Facebook every 5 days or so? Why don't you have a Twitter page? Why don't you have an Instagram page? Why does the content you put out suck? Again, that's part of the big mission to get somebody in charge who would have, doesn't need to be Michael Malice at Twitter, but somebody who gets it, somebody who's radical, somebody who's not afraid to push some buttons. I know that's definitely not you. You would do it. I've seen some of your tweets, which I've saw and I'm probably paraphrasing here, but if we were talking about COVID passports, if you're cool with COVID passports, fuck yourself with a double-sided barbed dildo, right? Something like that?
Yeah, well, first
Fucking
it was
great.
just a barbed dildo, but then I said a barbed double dong.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I thought that was great. And again, it's this is radical messaging.
But you want to hear something ridiculous?
Yeah.
Okay, during the suspension things, where, certain friends of mine, I put friends in quotes, were trying to backstab me. One of them actually claimed that statement was a sexual harassment statement.
Oh my God. Lawyers. These guys, they're lawyers in here, even if they're not. What can I get them on?
So now anytime you say go fuck yourself, you're sexually harassing somebody, rather than that just being a cultural insult.
Right. That's how they do it.
They actually tried to say that. And that was Richard Longstreth. I don't mind naming names because he was a friend who stabbed me in the back.
Yeah.
Because that is absolute bullshit. That's not sexual harassment. I mean, come on.
No.
Yes.
I would say I was shocked when I think it was the Libertarian Party of Kentucky put out the passport comparing it to the Star of David. I was like, that seems pretty...
That was fantastic.
It was fantastic. And you made a very direct comparison. It was like, yeah, I could see. But it stirred up so much more than the double-sided dildo comment. I was like, man, the world has changed since the 90s. Like, that would have just been the opposite. Any thoughts on that? Like, just...
and I loved how 2 days later in Israel, there were a bunch of Jews making the same comparison because the whole outrage was, you're anti-Semitic for making. Yeah. And then what are you going to go tell those Jews in Israel they're anti-Semitic too? Right. Well, knowing the people here who called Dave Smith a Nazi, he's a fucking Jew, maybe they would. To me, that until Dave pointed that out, like how horrible that was, for some reason it didn't hit me. And now I am just outraged at that.
Yes.
How dare you call a Jew who lost people in the Holocaust a Nazi? You are a horrible person if you do that.
Yeah. It's the only thing worse than calling just a non-Jew a Nazi or a white supremacist.
Yeah, but a Jewish man who lost family members,
it's egregious.
You are the scum of the earth if you're calling Dave Smith a fucking Nazi.
Yeah, and he's been pretty cool. He's treated a lot of these people with kid gloves, in my opinion. He's not the, the enforcer that people... Right.
But that's the type of thing, nap or no nap, that's the type of thing that gets you punched in the face.
Right.
When you insult somebody like that.
And you should expect it.
That's just like... it wouldn't make it right because violence is wrong, but it would make it understandable.
Yep.
It's like going up to a man and calling his wife a whore. You're probably going to get punched in the face.
Expect it. Yep. Absolutely. So there is a line, obviously, with the messaging coming out of official accounts. But we should push the envelope, right? I mean, that's what we should all be doing.
That's safe third parties are toothless third parties.
Right.
And I know there's a big debate on this and a lot of people disagree, and they're just going to have to disagree. I don't waste my time trying to change the mind of people who disagree. I go, you do you, boo-boo, and you're not bothering me none. Your tame messaging don't hurt me none. The problem is they think my not tame messaging hurts them.
Right.
Too bad.
Yeah. There's room for everybody. There
has to be, but
we need more of your stuff.
They can't live with it. I can live with them. Half of them can't live with me. And and this showdown is coming up still because the tame messaging camp has a new warrior in Justin Amash. And I love Justin Amash for multiple reasons. I think he's a genuinely good man, and good people in politics are rare. Also, I tend to get huge political crushes on people, and I think he's just the biggest cutie pie that's around. He's adorable. It was like Gary Johnson, who I thought was a big cutie pie as well.
Don't stare too deeply into their eyes. We got to focus here.
I know, but he is such a cutie pie.
I'm just kidding.
All he needs to do is bat his eyelashes at me, and I'll melt. But he's wrong. He's just dead wrong on the messaging thing. And that side of the argument, they have a powerful warrior in him. Yes. And that's coming to a head soon, I think.
Yep. But he was endorsed, and I think he's donated to the Prague caucus, which absolved in a day. Building 7 brought it down.
He also, people forget, Justin Amash gave an endorsement speech for Joe Bishop Henchman.
Oh, I didn't forget. I remember. I'm remembering that.
And when everyone started coming at me like a bunch of fucking hypocrites over who donated to my campaign, I asked Bishop Henchman right out, who's your donor list?
Yeah.
I bet you got a big fat donation from Justin Amash. I don't know that, but it wouldn't surprise me. And there would have been nothing wrong with it. Nothing at all wrong with it. But if you're going to come at me, I'm coming.
Yeah. And but it is very suspect. Why is this, Tea Party Republican, why is the alliance with the blue-pilled libertarian safe? I just don't understand the appeal. You came in with Rand Paul, sir. You should know. You've read Mises. You've read Rothbard. Like, what is the disconnect here? And it's probably the Beltway. It's that culture. We want to fit in. We don't want to upset anybody. We don't want to say, look, we believe the same things you do, but we got to just keep that down here for a while. Like, it's just this weird, bizarre area that they thrive in.
Well, with Justin Amash, he came from a large party. So to me, I give him a lot of a pass because third party politics is different and it takes a while to understand that. But he's starting to get past the new car smell where he should start to be knowing better now. Mm-hmm. But probably a couple more years, I think he's going to get a pass from me on that sort of thing. Because I'll give it up to him. He didn't, like a lot of people will party jump and then they disappear. He certainly hasn't disappeared. He's been really promoting the L name and the L brand, and I'll give it up to him for that, because that's not common to happen. I mean, he's in it. He's in it for the long haul. And I was suspicious at first, but he is in it for the long haul, and good for him. We need names like that.
Yeah.
But coming in as the celebrity politician and trying to change the whole party, no, I'm not cool with that at all, and won't be.
He's not going to do that.
And I've told him.
I don't think he's able to do that.
I've told him so.
Right? He's not able. Just the end. I know he's going to have a lot of energy. A lot of people from outside of the party are going to flood when he announces, and that's great. But I hope that the energy that's being created right now will allow us to withstand that. Again, I'm a fan too. He's one of the greatest congressmen we've ever had, and we're lucky to have him in the party.
Oh, he is.
But
he's got guts, and he's principled on his principle. Like, he would do what I would do. He would stand alone if he had to, and there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know about you, but I've got other plans for 2022 and 2024. So, Caryn,
you never know what he'll be in 2024. For all you know, that dude could turn all of a suddenly radical, and oh my God, that would be wonderful.
I would love it. People change, just like Joe Biden, right? He's gonna. No, people. I don't know. Do people in government change? Do people in elected office change? I don't know if they do.
He's not elected right now. People do change.
You're right. I want more of that spirit.
Yeah.
Caryn Ann, before we get out of here, please tell everybody where they should find you, watch your stuff, listen to you, donate, all the good stuff.
Well, everything's pretty much like my personal stuff is all through Pink Flame of Liberty, which is a YouTube channel. So that's generally where I, send people if they're interested. I do think it's somewhat unique in that it is strictly libertarian political, big L, libertarian political commentary. And there isn't a lot of that out there. There's small L libertarian political commentary, quite a bit, not enough, but quite a bit, but very few from the lens of the LP, and none from the lens of an LP insider that is critical of the Libertarian Cathedral.
Yes. I love your knowledge and your passion for the history of the party. That's really great. And if people don't realize it yet, that's going to be invaluable years to come. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, it's invaluable now, I think.
Yeah.
But so a lot of it does go into history, but it's all very LP centric. And there might be someone else doing similar content, because you can't possibly know all. But as far as I know, I'm the only one doing that. That includes commentary as to what's going on with the LNC and things like that. So it's certainly a niche, but it's a unique niche. So I really appreciate whatever viewership and support, because again, it's never going to be a huge channel because of how niche-y it is. Mm-hmm. But for the people that are interested in it, they get really interested in it.
Nice. Cool. So you heard it. Go follow Caryn Ann on YouTube. Follow her on Twitter. She's on Facebook. She's in the Mises Caucus group, hanging out with us and doing the work. Man, you really are doing the work. We're all so grateful. I'm definitely grateful for you. And man,
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Caryn Ann. Guys, that's it. That's episode 11. It's in the can. I'm so grateful for Caryn Ann's time. Check me out on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook. Go to the Dave vs. Goliath store on Teespring and buy some t-shirts to keep the lights on and the weird background going. It would help me out greatly. So, guys, I'll see you next time on Dave vs. Goliath. Peace.
Now that the smoke's gone and the air